open them both?
Yes, Maestro.
Maestro.
I can drink it myself. Francesco.
Yes, Maestro.
Clear the streets! Make way there! Clear the streets! Make
Battista,
way!
better see what's going on. They're too loud.
Make way! Make way for the king!
Hold this.
Make way there! Make way!
It's the king. Go inside.
The king!
Help me.
The king!
How are you, my friend?
Majesty.
No, just lay back. You don't have to talk, Maestro.
Sire.
Don't talk. Save your strength.
I've been thinking about what's still undone. So many things started, unfinished.
And what of all the things you have finished, Maestro Leonardo? Think of them.
So much to learn, to study. So much undone. My experiments with weights and motion. My volume 1 painting, not finished.
You've done more than most men even dream of.
No. God gave me the ability. But so much left undone. So much to do.
Such was the scene at the deathbed of Maestro Leonardo da Vinci, the monarch of France sitting by his bedside. His Most Royal Majesty, King Francis I. Leonardo remarked he'd offended God and man, failing to accomplish in the end all that he should have in life. Then he was struck with a convulsion, the harbinger of death.
So much undone. So much undone.
He died in the arms of the king at the advanced age of 75. Those words belong to Giorgio Vasari. But it's pure fiction, however. Leonardo didn't really die in the arms of the king, probably. In the 50 years which had passed when those words of Vasari's were written, Leonardo was already a legend, and Vasari created a myth that was suitable. Legends die hard, but the genius of Leonardo da Vinci wasn't merely legend alone. He was a superman. Painter, sculptor, physicist, architect, botanist, anatomist, writer, musician, master mechanic. He may have accomplished more than any other man, and yet very little is known of him. We have some records, like these, his personal notebooks in which he wrote his observations. And there are other sketches and notes, to be sure. Unfortunately, much has been lost over the centuries. The most brilliant mind of the Renaissance, in history some say, has left us too few of his writings, and but one sketch of himself, a self-portrait of a very old man. Leonardo da Vinci, master genius of the age of genius, the Renaissance. Complex, contradictory, solitary. He dreamed dreams never before dreamed, saw visions the world never dared see. Yet 500 years later, so much is veiled in mystery, wrapped in shadow. When the layers of legend are stripped away, who was this man, Leonardo da Vinci? centuries, the earliest documented evidence relating to Leonardo was a statement sent to the land registry office in Florence. It listed 5-year-old Leonardo as one of the mouths to be fed. But 30 years ago, a German scholar discovered a note written by grandfather Antonio referring to the birth and baptism of Leonardo.
The birth of my grandchild, son of my son, Sir Piero da Vinci, on Saturday, the 15th day of April at 3 in the morning, and called Leonardo.
He was born and baptized in a small Tuscan village near Florence called Vinci, from which his family took its name. Thus, Leonardo da Vinci. A number of people were present at his baptism, each of them carefully named but one, his mother. All that is known of her is that she was a native of Vinci named Caterina. Who was this Caterina? And why did Leonardo's father never marry her, even though he acknowledged their son and raised him? It may have been because of her social status. There is speculation that Caterina was a humble peasant girl, not acceptable as a wife to Ser Piero. The da Vinci family were among the wealthiest and most influential in their little village, and a simple peasant girl would not be a proper wife or mother. Whoever she was, Caterina was the first and perhaps the most insistent specter in the life of Leonardo. A few months later, Ser Piero did marry, a girl not yet 16, but of his class and therefore socially acceptable, Albiere degli Amadori. And Leonardo was brought up in the da Vinci household.
Don't cry, little one. Don't cry.
The marriage of Albiera and Ser Piero was to be childless. Some say that Albiera loved Leonardo and raised him as her son. Others believe that may have been true at the beginning.
Well.
A notary like his father before him, Ser Piero had all the virtues and vices of the hardy, rural stock of Tuscany. Sly, obstinate, greedy for money, and sensual. The complete opposite of what his infant son was to become. The family continued to live in Vinci until Leonardo was 5 years old, when business drew them to Florence.
And I want those chancery idiots to send back the entire list this time. Don't let them get away with anything. Understand? And don't forget the stamp duty. Do you have to sit and play on the cobbles? Trousers are expensive to buy. They're made of cloth. They're not made of leather. And they wear out. These things, they grow on trees.
With his business expanding, Ser Piero found little time to devote to his son.
Mama?
I got you.
In fact, the only member of the family to show interest in the boy was Uncle Francesco, Piero's younger brother. He was a carefree young man, with no ambitions, no wish to study, and worst of all, no desire to become a notary. But to Leonardo, his Uncle Francesco was a wonderful man who gave him love and affection. And as the years went by, he remembered all that Francesco had said of life and the world. Perhaps this young man, who sat home and earned no living, was the one who first set in motion the wheels of Leonardo's mind.
Hey, you awake? Come on, it's time you started learning something. See these herbs I'm picking? Some of them are good for you. This one makes you drowsy. And this is for when your stomach's upset. This is called mallow. It helps you pass water. You know why God gave people eyes? So we can see how he made the world. The world, everybody in it. Animals, plants, men. The more you see, the more you learn.
Oh.
Is it alive?
Oh, I'm afraid it's dead, poor thing. Well, it's still pretty. You want to learn something else? Tell you what, let's cut him open and find out what's inside.
All right.
Perhaps this is how Leonardo was introduced to anatomy. The beginning of that intense desire to know how things are made inside. A desire some felt bordered on the diabolic. His mother, Caterina, still lived in Vinci, and she silently watched the child they had taken from her as he grew.
Who are you? What do you want? Who are you, Signora? Why do you always watch me?
Ah, there you are. Ciao.
Who's that woman, Uncle Francesco?
What woman?
That woman's not there.
She's just a woman.
You want to bring all these books with us?
You didn't think I was going to leave them, did you? Books are expensive.
In 1456, as near as we can determine, the Vinci family decided to move to Florence. All the Vinci family, that is, except Leonardo, and Uncle Francesco, who was to look after him until the boy was sent for.
Piero, the boy's watching.
By this time, Ser Piero's first wife, Albiera, had died, and he had recently remarried. Leonardo's new stepmother was Francesca di Ser Lanfredini.
Here you
Stop
are,
rubbing
son.
your pangs on the stone.
Salute.
None for me?
Salute.
Is that one ready to go in the cart?
We're taking it out now.
Leonardo, do you have to rub your trousers on the stone like that, huh?
Oh, you'd like that.
Hurry them up, Francesco.
Make sure that's tied down.
You want these too?
Of course I want them, all of them.
Lay it out. You be good till I send for you. No mischief.
Piero, here. Do you always have to do that? You don't know how much new trousers cost to buy, young man, do you? I don't intend to spend money every day on new trousers for you, so you be careful.
Ready?
Let's go.
All right. All right. Francesca, get in the cart. Let's not waste all day.
As had been the case with Albiera before her, Francesca was to bear no children for Ser Piero.
Careful.
But they were newly married and still young, and certain that children would come.
Let's go. Get in there.
The great adventure was
Take it
before
all
them.
day.
Ser Piero was soon to be appointed notary to the Republic of Florence, and the little provincial town of Vinci was to be left behind forever. An era had ended, and a new one was beginning.
All right.
Let's go.
All right.
The departure that day must have been happy for everyone, except perhaps for the boy left behind.
Goodbye, Sir Piero. Have a safe journey.
always have to do that? You don't know how much new trousers cost to buy, young man, do you? I don't intend to spend money on new trousers for you every day, so you be careful.
As an adult, Leonardo enjoyed robust health. The years at Vinci laid those foundations for him and provided him with a passion for nature. Nature was a comfort when he was lonely and a sanctuary when he needed to be alone.
A stone thrown into the water creates motion. Concentric circles expand outward from the hub of the disturbance. The same motion occurs in the air when a sound disturbs it.
Leonardo! So this is where you've been all morning. I've been through the whole countryside looking for you.
What's the matter, Uncle? Is something wrong?
Your father's here. He's waiting for you up at the house. He's come to fetch you. You're going to Florence.
Oh, Caterina. I'm taking him to Florence. He's growing up like a wild animal here. He'll learn something in Florence.
Say something to Caterina. Say goodbye, at least.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Caterina.
In the intervening years, Caterina had married a Catabriga del Vaca,
What do you do out there all the time? Come inside.
of whom we know nothing but his name.
You holding tight?
Father, who's that woman?
Caterina, the wife of Vaca.
I don't mean that. Why does she watch me every day?
Man should learn not to ask too many questions,
Why not, Father?
because sometimes he might not like the answers.
Florence was a high-spirited, sometimes quarrelsome, gossip-ridden city governed by a family of far-sighted and brilliant bankers, the Medici. Leonardo's first years in Florence had been spent in a school of music and letters where he made great progress. Such progress, in fact, that Vasari writes,
He acquired so much knowledge that he often confused his tutor.
If it's not worth it, why do it? I know he's doing well in school. What I want to know is how is he going to earn a living? You say he knows more than the tutors you've hired? That doesn't put bread on the table. Piero, listen, what's the good of all this schooling, eh? What's the boy going to do? Can he become a notary like you and me? He can't. He's a bastard. And you know as well as I do. A bastard is never appointed a notary of the Republic, and never will be.
Shall I set the table now?
Yes. If I can still afford to eat when I get through with my taxes. Francesco, legitimate son of my wife, lives with me, earns no living, age 24. Leonardo, grandson, age 9, lives with me, earns no living, illegitimate. And there lies the whole problem, illegitimate. 6 mouths to feed and taxes are skinning us alive. You take my advice, Piero. Teaching him Latin and music and whatever doesn't serve any purpose. Now that the year's over, apprentice him to someone. He'll learn something useful. The best thing for the boy right now is to be taught a trade. He can earn a living at least. Taxes.
Come and help me make up the beds now, Paula.
Yes, Senora.
I want to clean all the bedrooms today.
They say the left hand is the hand of the devil.
Well, did the devil design clocks?
I doubt it.
Don't the hands go left to right on a clock? And all the spirals and seashells start on the left? Here, look. I've been collecting shells. I've been studying them.
You know too much, young man. Come with me.
What is it, Father? They're just sketches. I haven't done anything
You
wrong.
talk too much. I've never heard anybody talk so much.
Father, where are we going?
We're there. I'm going to apprentice you to Maestro Verrocchio, if he wants you.
Andrea Verrocchio?
Good morning, Maestro. I've got some business to discuss with you.
Always willing to talk business. Come in, Notary, come in.
I brought some drawings for you to see. I want to know if they're any good.
All right, let's spread them out and have a look.
There's not much resemblance between a 15th century studio and the way we think of them now. It was more of a workshop, actually. An artist didn't just paint pictures. He had to be a lot more versatile. Versatile and practical. The things he made were used every day. They fashioned utensils for the tables of the wealthy and the not so wealthy. Although designed by Maestro Verrocchio, the work itself was carried out by the young apprentices.
Your son's work?
Yes.
Quite good. Where's your son?
He's right outside. Leonardo, this is Maestro Verrocchio.
You're left-handed, aren't you?
Yes.
You mean you can tell?
The stroke is different. All right, you pay 3 lire a month for lodging and he can begin. Want to begin tomorrow?
Let's begin today.
You mean it?
Lorenzo! Lorenzo!
Yes, Maestro.
Bring this young man an apron.
Yes, Maestro.
Well, try to learn something.
Where do I live?
You live right here with us. 3 lire a month, don't forget.
You do your best now, hmm? Goodbye, Leonardo.
Here. Try this. What's your name? Leonardo. What's yours? Lorenzo. I'm working on the stone.
Oh, you are, huh?
You want to trade? All right. Are you hungry? A little bit. What's for dinner? Oh, the usual fried things.
And thus Leonardo began his long stay under the roof of Maestro Verrocchio. It was a system that benefited everyone. The apprentices could learn from the maestro, and he had a labor force. 5 years went by, and young Leonardo was still learning his trade.
I think I caught the feeling. Some of it, anyway. You see,
Want some more of these?
the usual fried things for dinner, I see.
Tradition has it that Maestro Verrocchio used young Leonardo as a model for his David. Certainly the face of David brings to mind features seen in some of Leonardo's own drawings, including an early painting, said to be a self-portrait. Before long, Leonardo had proved himself to be the most gifted of the maestro's apprentices, and as a result was allowed to paint one of the angels on an altar panel for which Verrocchio had been commissioned. In fact, he was the only apprentice permitted to work on that panel. The baptism of Jesus.
Look! The girls are here! Hey! Lady!
The washerwomen are back. Let's have a look.
Leave it to Perugino to find them. Yeah, it's a good thing Verrocchio's not here. Lovely fat thing.
Oh, what a day.
Come back. Who cares if you are fat? Look at that. Mind your skirt, my little chicken. Mind your own window.
Let me see,
What a lovely sight to inspire an artist, huh? Oh. Get out of my way, you're blocking the view. Hey! Meet me in the Via della Vergine. Tonight, midnight, huh? Don't be late, my beauty. It would break my heart.
It's beautiful. I've never seen an angel more beautiful. It's 100 times better than the one Maestro Verrocchio painted himself.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't forget, midnight, huh?
Back to your work, you good-for-nothings, all of you. Perugino, I'm tired of your troublemaking. And you, lunch is over. Do some work, and that means now. The minute my back is turned, you... All right. Just a minute. You think it's better, huh? Better than mine. $100 times better than mine. Go to work.
Vasari reports that after that day, Andrea Verrocchio never touched colors again out of pure disgust with himself. Perhaps.
Sometimes Lorenzo's an ignoramus, but he's right. Well, so he's right. Go back to work. I want that forge hot in 5 minutes. Oh, that...
The Medici family, like all intelligent tyrants, amused the population with festivities, fairs, and tournaments. And Maestro Verrocchio's workshop was commissioned to do much of the decorative work. In that year of 1471, Galeazzo Maria Sforza, Lord of Milan, paid a visit to Giuliano and Lorenzo de' Medici, Lords of Florence.
Hey, they're starting to pass by now. Hurry, everybody, come on! We can see everything out this window.
In 15th century Italy, local lords ruled almost every city with sovereign power. And this visit was meant to solidify a political alliance between the two reigning families.
Leonardo, come over here. The magnificent Lorenzo's riding by with Duke Sforza. Look. Did you ever see anything
It's
like
quite
it?
a spectacle.
Did you see the carts filled with gold cloth?
Who's that riding by?
Oh, that's Ludovico Sforza. He's the Duke's brother.
Now, he's a nobody. His skin's so dark, he looks like an African. They say his brothers call him Ludovico the Moor.
Within the period of the next 2 years, there were popular uprisings against both the Sforzas and the Medici. In Milan, Galeazzo Maria Sforza was killed, and within hours it was the nobody Ludovico the Moor who came into power. In Florence, Giuliano de' Medici was murdered too. His brother Lorenzo the Magnificent, managed to flee. And when he returned, he avenged his brother's death. Lorenzo's revenge was merciless. He hunted down the leaders of the revolt and the murderers of his brother. They were dragged back to Florence from as far away as Turkey and hanged in the public square. They were meant to serve as an example. All uprisings and assassinations would be dealt with in the same manner.
Move on. Go back to your homes. It's all over. Move on. Move on. Clear the square. Go back to your homes. Move on. It's all over. Go home. Move on. It's all over. Go back to your homes. Clear the square. Back to your homes.
What are you writing?
Black silk jacket, fox hat dyed color of jacket, cape of blue satin, fur line, dark full beard. It's strange. I wonder why he's still dressed as a Turk.
It's true. The left hand is the hand of the devil.
It's not easy to reconcile in our minds the painter of angels with the cold, cynical observer. But if we try to remember that beyond painting, Leonardo was also a man with an insatiable thirst for knowledge, we can then begin to understand the wide range of interests which were to make up his life. In many of his notes, Leonardo seems completely dispassionate and cruel. I'll try to make that clear with an example. It was an episode that happened more than 20 years after that day of the hanging. For years, he had been intent on solving the mystery of the human machine, that complex mechanism of muscles, bones, and blood. So in order to gain first-hand knowledge of the body, in life and in death, he was a frequent visitor at the Santa Maria Nuova Hospital in Florence.
How old are you, my friend?
Old enough.
70, 80?
More, much more than that. Much more.
Tell me how much more.
My grandson died at 68.
That makes you over 100.
Leonardo wrote, "The old man told me that he felt no pain, no sickness, nothing but a general weakness in his body. We talked for some 2 hours. And as I sat there, next to his bed, without movement, without incident, he quietly passed from this life." Those words seem almost melancholy from Leonardo. Only then he goes on to say, without even a break in his thoughts, "I immediately moved the old man so that I could cut open the cadaver to find the cause of such a sweet death." One has perhaps a certain feeling of horror reading this episode. These frail remains, which only an hour ago represented a warm, friendly old man, were now, in fact, only a source of information. "I conducted a second anatomical dissection," wrote Leonardo. "This time a child, a boy of 2 years.
Oh, what's wrong?
Hey, Carlo.
Look, Carlo.
After all these years, Leonardo had a brother, or rather a half-brother. Ser Piero had married a third time, and his new wife, Margherita di Francesco, had borne him a son.
Leonardo, bring the wine. What are you drawing? Hey, pour. St. Joseph.
What's wrong with you? You sit and amuse yourselves while our son catches cold.
He's right next to the fire. He's not going to catch cold. Maybe she's right. I don't know.
Piero?
Women.
Piero! Are you getting deaf in your old age?
Huh?
Come in here. I want to talk to you. Right now.
All right, I'm coming. I'll go to the devil. Well, what are you so angry about?
Because I want to know why you're always inviting that bastard of yours. I can understand you wanting to have him around for you. Other wives couldn't bear a legitimate son for you.
Yes?
Well, you have no reason for it now. Don't you see how you're wronging our son by having him in this house?
No, Marguerite.
Oh,
Marguerite,
Anna.
you're exaggerating.
I don't want him here. Do you understand?
The Madonna and Cat which Leonardo outlined was never painted actually, although several sketches remain intact. Leonardo always remembered his stepmother's petty bitterness. Her death held no sorrow for him. Ser Piero continued as a willing slave of his stomach and the lusts of the flesh. So he married a fourth young woman who bore 10 children for him. And when Ser Piero died some 20 years later, the child sketched with the cat joined with his other brothers and sisters to claim what had been left to Leonardo in Ser Piero's will, stating as their reason his illegitimacy. He made note of his father's death in one of his notebooks, dated July 9th in the year of our Lord, 1504. At 7 o'clock this evening, Ser Piero da Vinci, notary, my father, died suddenly. 12 children survived his death, 10 of whom are male, 2 female. He had nothing more to say. Nothing at all. Following his father's death and his estrangement from his brothers and sisters, Leonardo was truly alone in the world. It was what he wished for and what he strove for the rest of his life. He wrote in his notes, "Free is he who is saved." Although alone, he wasn't lonely, for at this point in his life, nature fascinated him more than ever. His inquiring mind delved into its mysteries, probing, searching, ever questioning.
The leaves of trees follow their cycle according to symmetrical and precise laws. Why? The fruits, the seeds, contain an embryo of a new plant, of that plant only and no other. Why? Why? Why?
But while finding refuge in nature, he didn't avoid the company of men. Leonardo often joined the assembly of artists, philosophers, and men of letters gathered together from throughout Florence at the home of Lorenzo de Medici. Since Leonardo's education had been interrupted when he was apprenticed to Maestro Verrocchio, he tried to make up for lost time by studying on his own. He taught himself Latin. He talked incessantly with the educated men he met at Lorenzo's house, absorbing everything they had to offer. It was a fascinating era for the arts and letters, and he was in the midst of it. Ancient statues were being excavated. The dusty libraries of monasteries were being searched for the writings of Greek and Latin authors, which had remained buried during the long medieval period. But often Leonardo's practical mind would rebel against the sterile discussions of the philosophers, who would argue for hours on end concerning the nature and essence of the soul.
Well, it's all very well to stand here and discuss the nature of the soul, but it adds nothing practical to the world we live in. It's more important to know the nature of man's world than the nature of something that may or may not even exist. The soul is problematic. You can't analyze it mathematically or chemically, can you?
Yet despite his never-ending search for more knowledge, he was still a painter. And while he studied and learned, he didn't neglect his profession. That period was one of his most productive. He painted the Madonna del Garofano, the Madonna Benoit, the Madonna Lita, now at Leningrad, the portrait known as the Ginevra Benci, and 2 Annunciations, one in the Louvre and the other in the Uffizi. In Leonardo's Giglio dell'Angelo, nature is used as an envelope of atmosphere. These are the landscapes of Leonardo.
You should have seen this.
Leonardo's great strength was legendary among his contemporaries, and so was his active imagination. In the words of Vasari,
God had graced Leonardo with genius. His fertile mind never ceased creating new designs and models. He claimed to have designed a model which, when reproduced full size, could lift the church of St. John off the ground so that steps could be placed beneath. And his reasoning was so convincing that everyone believed him.
so many times admiration and envy accompany each other. In April of 1476, an anonymous letter was sent to the magistrate of night vigilance, who was responsible for law and order in Florence. It made accusations against a group of young Florentines, of which Leonardo was a member. They were brought to trial.
The statement accuses the following who are present. Bartolomeo di Pasquino, goldsmith of Vacchereccia. Leonardo, son of Ser Piero da Vinci, apprentice to Andrea del Verrocchio.
A moment, please.
The records are sketchy. The exact accusation is not known to us, and probably never will be known.
Shall I proceed?
Yes, go on.
Bacino Falsetaio of Orto San Michele. Leonardo Tornabuoni.
Did you hear that? He's one of the Tornabuonis.
A Tornabuoni.
As it happened, one of the young men accused along with Leonardo was distantly related to Lorenzo the Magnificent, a cousin on his mother's side of the family. Unwilling to irritate the Medici with a scandal, the court reasoned that a little discretion was in order.
I recommend suspension. I agree. Do you agree? Completely. Very well. Case suspended while awaiting further evidence.
Thank you. Thank you.
You may go until this court is reconvened.
I want all the documents relevant to this case in my personal chamber.
Statements, inquiries, reports. They were all buried in the archives. The trial was never reopened. The anonymous accusations, never confirmed but circulated freely, burned deeply into Leonardo. If only men were as free as the birds. To be able to fly. To fly and be free.
A bird is able to fly because of the air which supports it.
Perhaps his state of mind gave Leonardo his first ideas about flight.
There are precise mathematical forces at work which allow a bird to fly. The wing exerts as much pressure against the air as the air exerts against the wing.
Theoretically, then, man should be able to reproduce the conditions which enable birds to fly. Leonardo would work toward that end. But meanwhile, he would develop another means to be free of the envy and jealousy and the prying eyes of men. He used a simple technique, yet ingenious. He wrote backwards from right to left, so the only way his notes could be read was in a mirror. He wanted to hide his thoughts, his ideas. He wanted to hide anything that might reveal his real personality in the private man. He kept his notes secret in this way, always. But new forces were beginning to take hold. Forces which were to shape the pattern of the whole future for Leonardo. The fact is, from this point on, the brilliant art of Leonardo became rare. And the time spent in study and other areas of interest increased. Oh, he hadn't finished yet. There were still paintings to be done, enough of them. They took much longer, years, some of them. There were others he never finished. He was constantly moving on from one project to another, as though, by showing a completed work, he might also be showing the world some imperfection which ought to remain hidden. So there were the two major drives in Leonardo. He coveted both. They were basic to his life, solitude and perfection. Although he was never again prolific in his painting, the works he did complete stand alone. They're monumental, the works of genius. In 1481, Leonardo was commissioned to paint an Adoration of the Magi for the monastery of San Donato at Scopeto. He worked on it for over a year which included time out for other studies, and several changes of mind about the composition of the painting. A copy of his contract still exists. Drafted in a quibbling style by his father, Ser Piero, it contains clauses which give definite advantages to Leonardo. Perhaps the contract, in addition to the time wasted, was the cause of the monk's growing impatience.
Leonardo, my son, you've been painting this adoration for months now, but I see very little progress.
There is progress, but I'm striving for perfection.
Perfection is not of this world. Show a little humility.
I do. My studies are making me more humble every day.
I gave you 4 lire and 6 soldi in June. Am I correct?
Correct.
And I gave you 20 florins in July. Am I right?
Yes.
Besides that, you were given flour and wine. You are forcing us to find someone else. Perhaps less talented, but at least the painting will be finished.
Sometimes, when he was dissatisfied or under great stress in his work, he would go back to the workshop where it had all begun. There he could hear the harsh, decisive voice of his old maestro, Andrea del Verrocchio, and watch others learning their craft.
Modeling in clay already.
Welcome back, Maestro Leonardo.
Most of his old companions were no longer there, of course. Their places had long been taken by young apprentices who considered him old. All but one.
Leonardo, it's been a long time since we've seen you. Something's bothering you. What's wrong?
Oh, discontent.
Discontent? With your work?
With myself.
Who are they? Who? Oh, they're from Venice. I heard them talking about a commission for an equestrian statue, and they've got a lot to spend, I guess.
We use that forge for the smaller work. Now, this is the area where the apprentices learn to paint and model with clay. Most of them stay about 5 or 6 years, except for my friend Lorenzo. He spent quite a while here with me. This one used to work here. He's too good for me now. Well, anyway, there's more than enough room, as you can see. This is where we'll model the clay. There's more room there. The casting, of course, will have to be done in Venice.
You'll need much more room than this.
It has to be bigger than the one by Donatello.
Bigger by half.
By more than half.
10 cubits high.
Perhaps 12, in fact.
We'll model out here.
Where?
Here, in the courtyard.
Oh, I see. I think it will suffice. Yes. There'll be room enough here for our purposes, I believe. But one moment. What if it rains?
It'll simply get wet.
The maestro's had to deal with this before. He builds a covering for the courtyard.
I see you use a covering to protect the model. That'll be fine, I'm sure.
As far as advance payment is
We'll
concerned.
return and discuss that with you tomorrow. You understand that our city requires a statue which will be worthy of placement in the...
Oh, a masterpiece.
Yes, well, it must be worthy of Venice, which will pay you commensurately and even...
This means work for all of us for over a year. And this commission is more important than anything we've done. It will be our maestro's greatest piece of work. And those Venetians pay very well.
Who are those men?
Well, they're very rich visitors from Venice, bringing us money, Matteo. More than we've ever seen.
Back to work. No more work today. We'll work tomorrow and celebrate today. Giovanni, go out and buy cheese, salami, and bread. Go on, hurry. You too. And wine. Don't forget wine. Get some tables and benches. Clear this space and put them here. Lorenzo, move this.
Yes, Maestro.
Somebody move that clay back there before it falls. And get those paints off the tables. Careful, don't break anything or I'll send you all back to work.
Put it down here. Here comes the food. No wine?
Enough to take a bath in.
Come and join us, Leonardo.
Those Venetians needed a lot of convincing, didn't they, Maestro?
Did you hear how he took care of them for us?
Oh, it's got to be at least 12 cubits high.
Oh, no, taller than that. Much taller.
Is the courtyard big enough to you?
You can make fun of them, but not their money. After I get that signed commission tomorrow.
It'll rain money. As long as the statue doesn't get wet.
It was strangely coincident that Maestro Verrocchio had been commissioned to do an equestrian statue at this time. Leonardo himself had been sketching horses for months, planning to include them as part of the background in his adoration of the Magi. But, unlike Verrocchio, he was not content to simply capture their shape and movement. He had to know why and how they moved. Why did they rear up on their haunches? What made their nostrils flare? There had to be a reason for each muscle movement. It was all part of his fascination with anatomy and his endless probing into the nature of the world which surrounded him. He sketched them for hours at a time, endlessly recording every movement, every expression, capturing in detail the workings of each set of muscles. Dozens of his drawings have come down to us, fortunately. And together, they make an almost definitive study of the anatomy of the horse. Meanwhile, his painting for the monks of San Donato showed practically no progress.
Good morning to you, Maestro.
Good morning.
You're not finished for the day.
I am.
May I look?
Of course.
Their patience at an end, the monks terminated Leonardo's contract. The adoration of the Magi was finished by Filippino Lippi.
Hey, don't let those ropes up against it. Don't carry the ladder that way. It's liable to fall. Give them a hand, you two. Hey, you. Watch where you're walking. It's not made of bronze yet.
While Leonardo carried out his anatomical studies of horses, Verrocchio, with far less preparation, had finished the model for the commissioned statue. Done in gesso, a kind of plaster, it was being dismantled for shipment to Venice, where it would be cast in bronze.
I'll be right there. The other page is inside.
Leonardo.
Put it down there. That's it. Careful.
Better get some more.
Very good. That's right. Right. Easy. Yeah.
Careful.
Over here. Ready?
Hold the guide rope.
That's it. That's it. Hold it. Hold it.
Come and have a close look. Come on.
That's it. That's it.
A little bit more.
Hold it.
Easy.
Watch it. Careful.
It's beautiful. It really is. It's all being created piece by piece. First, we're taking it to Piacenza by wagon. After we get there, we're transferring the crates onto barges. Sail up the Po the rest of the way to Venice. You should have seen the crowds we had here last week. I think half of Florence came to see the horse, and they all trooped through the workshop. Pity you didn't see it.
Oh, I did see it, Lorenzo.
When?
Early last week. I came into the courtyard. I didn't see you. You were evidently busy in back talking with the maestro. You going to Venice?
Yes. The maestro wants me to help him with the casting. It's going to be a big job.
You're all deserting me one by one. You, Perugino.
Perugino and Botticelli are already in Rome. They're working on the Sistine Chapel. Can't you move any faster packing those crates?
Easy. Guide it down. That's it.
Bring some of that wood over here. Hey, Giovanni. You came here. You didn't know you ended up in the coffin, did you?
Time passes. It cannot be stopped for an instant. Minute by minute, today becomes yesterday.
The water which flows in the river is the first to go and the last to arrive. It is like a moment in our lives.
Leonardo had passed 30 now. This particular period of his life in Florence is somewhat mysterious. The fact is, almost nothing is known of his whereabouts for close to 3 years. There is some evidence that he traveled. Others say those 3 lost years were spent in prison. This theory is largely supported by a series of sketches which he titled How to Escape from Prison, and some rather enigmatic words in a notebook. You cast me into prison. The years in Florence were years of intense study, that we do know. As a painter, his talent was fully established, but his productivity was sadly deficient. This period was preparatory. He began designs for work he was never to finish. There were years forever gone, years which should have produced so much. Rather than an entire body of work, he completed only the Annunciation, now in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, and possibly 2 Madonnas which hang in the Hermitage at Leningrad. There may have been other works which have since been lost, of course. But still, it is sad to think that 10 years in Florence produced so little. Perhaps he did travel, as some would have it, or did go to prison, as others speculate. Those theories might account for much. 2 other major works were begun in Florence. The Adoration of the Magi for the monks, and this one, a monochromatic study of St. Jerome, which now hangs in the Vatican, neither of which was ever finished. So much of the man has been shrouded in legend that the real Leonardo is difficult to find. It's as though a veil separated us. We can see outlines and shapes behind it, but not the details. And that makes him even more tantalizing. Perhaps he felt stifled by Florence. This highly civilized but strangely provincial city may have begun to pall after 10 years. Perhaps the gossip and pettiness of which he had been the subject became unbearable, who knows. The anonymous accusation which had brought him to trial was surely still on his mind. Perhaps he was just restless. These and other reasons all contributed to his decision to leave Florence. He would find another city in which to work, one that might satisfy his eternal discontent. He chose Milan, and it was common knowledge that Lodovico the Moor was seeking talent which would add luster to his court. Without warning, he left. His notes do not include his reasons for leaving, but do include a detailed account of his luggage. The year was 1482. In fact, we were able to pinpoint his departure because of a letter he sent earlier that spring. He wrote Lodovico the Moor, offering his personal services. When he left, he took 2 people along. Not friends exactly, but rather professional acquaintances. One was Atalante Miglioretti, a musician. Leonardo's other companion was Tommaso Massini da Barottola, whom he called Zoroastro in his notes. A skilled workman, Zoroastro in the coming years would play a large role. He would build the mechanical models Leonardo designed, among them the flying machines. It was the spring of the year. A new beginning. Florence, the past, was behind him. Milan, the future, was waiting. What would it hold?